Here's Anna saying, she points out this tweet. Sam Sachs called out Emma on this tweet. Apparently she retweeted something. Seemingly wasn't accurate. I'm not sure. I don't know where it stands. I'm not sure if Emma has addressed this. Fine if she does. I don't think this amounts to anything close to Anna's insistence that MAGA wasn't for 2025, or that or believing Donald Trump as a credible source at all on anything he says. The guy who's a notorious con man and a notorious liar. Like, Trump's magic is that his authenticity makes him seem honest, but that's the necromancy happening real time, is that he's a completely fungible person who doesn't speak in accuracy. So people fill in the gaps with their own biases. But here's Anna talking about correcting stories. And again, I don't know if Emma has an obligation to correct this story. Let's say it is wrong. Maybe she should. I'm not here to pick a fight for that. She's not, it's, whatever. It's fine. I'm not, fine. It's okay that this is in the video. It's worth pointing out if you feel like it needs to be addressed. If it does rise to a level where she addresses it, it's worth pointing that out too. And also, and it's not necessarily a credible source here either, as far as the editorialization that Anna has already shown in this video, in my sense as well. So take a look at it if you like to or not. I'm not trying to hide it.
The post that was retweeted 5,000 times. I checked today, it's still up. And therein lies the heart of the issue with Majority Report. Anyone who has a thought or belief that deviates even slightly from their doctrine is just a right-winger. And right-wingers could never make any legitimate points, right? We must all worship the all sanctimonious Majority Report and their ideological dogma at all costs, even when there's evidence proving them wrong. Although I can't decide if people like Emma are really this cultish with their politics, or if they're just terrified by their own audience.
DSA Josh, I live on the west side of LA. All the criticism that conservatives are directing towards Mayor Karen Bass is 100% motivated by white nationalism and violent misogyny. They're fascists, full stop.
Hey, DSA Josh, you're unhinged. And guess what? I'm elated that you watch Majority Report. They deserve you.
Tell the truth, DSA Josh. He's going after some random commenter from Majority Report. That's so crazy. And the idea that, like, I don't know the degree of the white nationalism, but any black prominent figure, any mayor in this country who is African-American, who's black, like Karen Bass is, who's been a prominent politician, she was a national politician too, is going to be on the receiving end of white nationalist rhetoric, particularly in the era of ascendant white nationalism, of Christian nationalism, particularly these days. They've emboldened, ghouls that have always existed in this country as in its origins. Root code type stuff coming back up that Trump is tapping into. He's turning the river of pink ooze into a river of pink oozlings. I'm thinking of DS9 Odo, he's a changeling. Star Trek. I love Star Trek so much.
As for TYT, we're gonna correct the record when we get something wrong.
Okay, there it is. Anna, well, here's Anna's tweet back February 21st, 2020. While I'm personally supportive of unions, this feels like it's done in bad faith. The fact that this all blew up on the day of Cenk's debate is also extremely suspicious. This is her saying she's against TYT union. She's answering, a thread here, a two tweet thread where she writes at the top, as an employee of TYT, this is February 21st, 2020. As an employee of TYT who is not part of management and not involved in the business side, I'm the EP of the main show, meaning I have editorial say. I feel extremely uncomfortable with IATSE's endorsement of Cenk's congressional opponent who does not share our progressive values. And she retweets Cenk here. This is a quote tweet of his where he points out that IATSE did endorse them. If you look at this statement down here at the bottom, the fact that IATSE has failed to respond to TYT, this is in the film, by the way, the fact that IATSE has failed to respond to TYT, instead opting to issue misleading statements, suggests that there are other motives at play. They seem to think that the other motive, they're hinting at the conspiracy. They're hinting at the notion that this was not a worker-led effort, that it's somehow some other thing. This was the first salvo in this bullshit that outsiders unionized the Young Turks. So here's Anna explicitly coming out against the union at the Young Turks. There's other tweets of hers as well to this Substack here. This goes to the top. Here's the headline. 2 versions, 1 truth. Evidence for my claims about the Young Turks. See for yourself documents, emails, articles, tweets supporting the claims I'm making. So if we scroll down, first of all, start at the articles. Go to the articles right here. They're super helpful. Great foundation for the union busting if you'd rather not me be your core source for it. Obviously I have a bias. I'm very closely, connected to this whole deal. I just have all the different tweets that came up. Here's Cenk, being sarcastic, acting as if there's some sort of conspiracy that he might be called out for his union busting at this forum that it was finally going to be his first time in the same room as Christie, or not same room first time, but same like formal debate event. It was like 10 candidates or something. You'll see part of that in the film too. They didn't bring it up. The suspicion that they were going to bring it up, and then they never did. Even if she had brought it up, it wouldn't be any affirmation of why the workers don't deserve their right to collectively organize. As I write too, this sidebar here, pause and read it. This is very reasonable. It was fair that they felt some sort of suspicion about it, considering they might not have understood, or there might not have been, but they didn't seem to care to do any fact checking in order to confirm that before smearing their own workers, because they were motivated. They didn't want to know. It's not even that they didn't want to know the truth. It's that they had a narrative predetermined that they were insistent on spreading. They smeared their workers intentionally. Otherwise, they wouldn't have covered it up all this time. Here's Anna saying she feels uncomfortable. We just saw that one. Here's saying it feels like it's done in bad faith. What was the sources, Anna? Was it your feelings? Because this is not enough sourcing. I'm trying to click on it. This little bit here where it's an internal communication of IATSE going to canvass for Christy Smith, proving that they endorsed her. I looked for announcements from them. I didn't know what time period that happened, but Young Turks workers first reached out to IATSE. This is this long tweet thread, by the way. They're hyper obsessed about IATSE. They describe it as a ploy to intimidate us and the people who work at TYT. Maybe it was because your workers wanted to get health insurance and paid days off for one of their people. Maybe they felt disrespected by the horrible working conditions. And that was a bunch of leftists who believe in fucking unionizing, and so they unionize their workplace. Like, the story is pretty simple. These articles go into it. Dave Jamieson wrote in Huffington Post he spoke to Cenk. As the union spat became more public, Uygur suggested on Twitter that the union campaign was politically motivated by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, the union trying to organize TYT employees. Now, that is true. Like, they were, but like, we invited them to organize TYT. We were organizing our union, and we looked around and said, well, that's the union we would join. We invited them to come in. IATSE endorsed Smith in the race. But staffers, here's the critical part. Staffers said their first organizing discussions date back more than 2 years. Remember, this was written in February 2024. And their recent attempt to round up support began shortly before Uygur declared his candidacy, a timeline confirmed by a union organizer. Shortly, the word means months before in this case. In fact, I said the wrong, like right here, this is me talking to Kim Kelly by email. I wish I had said 4 to 5 months, not 3 to 4 months. But if you want to be really pedantic, I plotted before these 3 or 4 months. Conversations started in June, July, August. So like 3 or 4 months, but these numbers don't need to be super precise. So but I do wish I had said like 5 months mainly. That's my kind of goal. Oh, that's not quite there. In the New Republic then, not that we're going to read that part again, but here, a further snarl appeared when Uygur accused IATSE of trying to sabotage his California congressional run. By the way, this plot is so stupid. It only works if he denies the union. Say yes to the union and there's no plot. In fact, it becomes the one bright spot. You know how much more Cenk would be bragging about his union and his company if it wasn't this gaping open wound that I'm like, I feel like Neo from the Matrix trying to like swim my way into it, but I can't quite get in. That's why I need help from people who have more social, parasocial power than I do. Cause I'm like a fish whose head is like stuck partway through, and I'm just like, but my tail is wiggling really hard. But if he had just said yes to the union, even if he hated it, even if he knew at the time, then he could have fundraised. You know how much TYT's audience would have been so down for like, oh my God, cool, they're living their principles. Look how awesome Cenk Uygur is. He's a man who means it. He even was very honest and said that he at first wasn't sure if he was for it, but his heart, he's a good man. And then he runs for president. He could talk about how he ran as a union organizer, and that was like all the things that he could twist it. He's a twister. He's a sales guy. He'll totally spin this shit up into these bullshit mesmerism type rhetorical arguments that he's fond of making, and he hopes people don't see through. He's just not used to people seeing through the bullshit as much. It didn't used to be as obvious as in the past, and that's probably a difference in terms of himself as well as the way it's being received. It would be such a gift to his future. What a fucking idiot to not realize how dumb, how just like of a self-own it was, how much of a self-inflicted wound it is to do union busting while running for Congress. When the hell has that ever happened? I guarantee, pre-1950 something back throughout history in America, there were politicians who were also business owners who were doing union busting. I guarantee it can't be the first time, but this guy did union busting while running for Congress. It's nuts. Let's just finish this. I'm spitting like against former Representative Katie Hill. He is challenging California Assemblywoman Christy Smith from the left. But the campaign has run into trouble from the start, even before Senator Bernie Sanders pulled his endorsement following public outcry over Uygur's past inflammatory, sexist, and racist comments. When he called the timing of the unionization announcement into question on Twitter, intimating a conspiracy against him because IATSE had previously endorsed his opponent, organizers offered a quick rejoinder. Alex Thompson, in April, was it 20th? I thought that might have been the 10th. I might need to double check on that one. I'll make sure that I do. There are typos and stuff like that I've found in these, so I don't want to get that wrong. I'll make sure that's accurate. The Progressive Company, which was a big booster of Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign, ended up voluntarily recognizing the union. See, that's not true. That's bad writing. There's only one chance to voluntarily recognize. Voluntary recognition triggers negotiation. Actual voluntary recognition marks the start of the negotiation phase, but TYT refused to negotiate because they refused to recognize, insisting instead on a new election at a later date, buying themselves time during which management would employ the array of coercive and deceptive union busting techniques. Delay is an extremely common union busting tactic. They didn't negotiate after they rejected card check, which means and you can only voluntarily recognize once. Once it's forced through the second election, Alex Thompson's not a labor journalist. I think that's why he gets this way. He does like national reporting. He was real big on the Biden during the Biden and the last several months of the Biden campaign about his mental conditions and stuff. I think, at least I recall seeing him on TV. Like his profile has raised, but I find this phrasing kind of annoying because they didn't actually end up voluntarily recognizing the union. Cenk wants people to believe that that's what happened. But it's not. We have the workers' words to show you what happened because they're more trustworthy on what happened than Cenk Uygur. Okay, real quick. I just remembered I needed to show you. This was the day the union finally, the second election was held. The vote was 9-6. Cenk puts this deceptive tweet out. Remember, I was taking issue with Alex Thompson saying it was voluntary recognition, saying, our editors, graphics, and studio technicians at the Young Turks decided to join IATSE today. That's not true. They had decided months prior to that. We voluntarily recognized through the union through an immediate secret ballot. Looking forward to working with them on a healthy, productive relationship. So this might be where Alex Thompson sort of got that language, thinking like, oh, they finally did do the thing where it's now an official, therefore it's voluntary. It's not. This was involuntary recognition. Here's TYT Union. Here's the workers themselves. We have voted again. This was the second election and have reaffirmed, like they're showing it, they're clearly choosing their words carefully, our decision to organize. We are pleased to announce that the Young Turks has officially recognized TYT Union. We're thrilled to now have a voice on the job. That's what happened. It wasn't voluntary. It was official recognition, or as I call it in the film, involuntary. Continuing. But that only came after a drive that included 2 separate complaints to the National Labor Relations Board, the company's rejection of card check in favor of secret ballot, a typical business practice that Sanders and other progressives have fought against, allegations of a political conspiracy to sink Uygur's recent congressional campaign, and at least 2 1,500-word-plus screeds that Uygur emailed to staff arguing against employees forming a union, which were obtained by Politico. One NLRB complaint over the termination of a pro-union employee is still pending. So apparently, in the interview with Alex Thompson, Uygur also suggested, this is reading now, Uygur also suggested that the union drive was part of an effort to undermine his recent campaign for Congress in California's 25th district, in which the union had endorsed one of his Democratic opponents. Uygur finished fourth in the top 2 primary on March 3rd. Uygur cited that dynamic as one of the irregularities when asked why he did not support card check. Here's the critical part. Emails viewed by Politico, however, see, where I'm from, Illinois, that's just a word we use that indicates something else is relevant and worth considering and possibly even true. Contradictory to a previous, what do they call chunks of sentences? Segment? I don't know. Show that conversations between the staffers and IATSE date back to April of 2018. And they began scheduling a meeting with the union on November 5th, 2019, more than a week before Uygur declared his candidacy. So we talked to IATSE twice. I wasn't there for the 2018 one. I shouldn't say we, but the group first reached out in 2018 asking IATSE for help, and they showed Alex Thompson emails proving that. Not just their word, they proved it. And they also had the emails, because they don't delete the emails. They also had the emails that showed that we first reached out in November, early November of 2019. Cenk filed for his paperwork on the 13th of November. What is that? 8 days? 8 days before. Nobody knew he was going to become a politician. We asked IATSE to help us to check our boss's horrible employment practices. We wanted to improve our working conditions. Anna retweeted the thing, this detailed thread, and nobody ever reached out to me, even though I made it clear that I was available to speak, to be out there. And they could have checked with me. There was no reason they wouldn't have trusted me. The honesty I would have shared is in these 3 tweets that are on screen. Sorry, I'm not reading them out loud. But so where's Anna's willingness to correct the record here? So remember, Anna said this about correcting the record at TYT.
As for TYT, we're going to correct the record when we get something wrong. And I'm positive it will happen again in the future.
Well, it happened in the past, Anna. And this is what Anna had to say on the Nomiki Kunst program in July of 2028. This entire interview is really interesting. Just a very short clip here. So if you want to say it's out of context, go ahead. But you can find this on Nomiki's YouTube channel. There's parts of this are going to be in the final version of the film. It's actually the whole 6 to 7 minute chunk here about this whole, she talks about the union stuff way more than any discussion about the union Cenk has ever had up until this recent January 2025, where he was asked about it on the Generational Change podcast. Until then, this interview was by far the most anybody from TYT upper. She's not management, but she was involved in a way that she's probably trying to avoid telling. Or maybe not. I don't know. If she had done any kind of internal communications to people about the union, I'd be fascinated to learn about that or not. If she wants to tell me that she did do some fact checking that I'm not aware of, I'm totally open to seeing evidence of it. From me and my sources, there was no contact or communication with people who were involved to try to assess how the union got started. So I feel very confident saying no fact checking occurred. Anyway, so here's what she said about the union. Watch your hands here.
And it turned into a union busting story.
Air quote. One more time.
And it turned into a union busting story. And it turned into a union
busting. She air quotes union busting. So she doesn't think all that was union busting. Maybe she doesn't know what it was. She sort of acknowledged, she doesn't, this whole interview is really interesting. I really need to do like a thorough breakdown. Honestly, I could probably talk about it for several hours because she details all the reasons they were suspicious, and sort of people who are in the know are going to be suspicious. But very much taking the sort of company line around it. There's one brief moment where she says something like, well, then they got the union, and now that they're happy, okay, fine.
It turned into a union busting story. And now they're unionized, and we understood, by the way, I'm not even in management. I'm an executive producer, which is different from being in management on the business side of things. So I have no say in whether people get to unionize or not. And if the employees want to unionize, they should unionize. And that's what happened. They finally did. And if they're happy, awesome. But the problem that I had with the way that story played out and how it was perceived by people in indie media is that immediately, like, virtue signaling is real. It is real.
But like, she doesn't acknowledge anything about the origin of the union. And in the end, the final third of this interview, she goes on to sort of like reprimand the left for, this is the stuff that's probably going to be in the film, but as well as this moment, I think. Actually, this is in the early part of the film, is a screenshot. But, and she goes on to reprimand the left and like other content creators and shows and stuff for putting out information about this without checking first with her and Cenk.
And so immediately there were few people from indie journalism that I love and I have great respect for, who felt the need to condemn Cenk publicly, right? Because it's the brand play, you know. Oh, I got to make sure that my brand among my leftist audience is squeaky clean. So that means immediately, without asking any questions, without looking into the story, I'm going to go ahead and condemn Cenk as a union buster. And that really infuriated me because, hey, how about hit him up? How about call me? How about ask a question or two?
Ask a question. That's right. That's it.
Right. Instead of like, really, you're going to believe the New York Times or CNN or whoever?
And that's the lack of solidarity that they refer to. The full episode was episode 26, where they talk about Michael Brooks. But this clip was clipped out by Nomiki, and it talks about solidarity in the headline, at least. So, but she suggests that she and Cenk had authority over the story over than the workers, than myself or anybody else who was involved at the beginning. That's nuts. That really bothers me, that she thinks that she gets to be the arbiter of the truth about what happened here. Maybe that's why they didn't do any fact checking, just something along those lines of why would they know? They weren't involved. We made sure they weren't because we feared retaliation from upper management. Here's Cenk being dishonest when the union was ratified.
Our relationship got off to a bumpy start in the beginning.
That's what he called his union busting, a bumpy start. That's clearly designed to deceive people and not tell them what's going on.
But that was due to a lot of different reasons, having nothing to do with how we treat employees here.
Wrong. Literally, the reason we unionized was because of how you treat employees, you fucking liar. Come on. And then there's another one. This was the call. This is Hansi83 on Twitter. Give him a follow. Called up and got in Cenk's grill. I don't know how to use these words. And we got this magical moment, which is certainly going to be in the film.
Are you a union buster?
No, I'm definitely not a union buster. So,
there's evidence that proves otherwise, though.
What evidence? All right, brother. You've had a nice run. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There's plenty of evidence, dude. There's all kinds of evidence. All right, awkward edit there. Sorry, guys. Quick comments here just to see Anna's responses to the majority report, and we want to see what TYT viewers are saying. We'll go to top comments first. This shit is boring as hell. Get some therapy and move on, says Icy Kitty. Benjamin Kendrick says, maybe it's time for Anna to step away from the internet. Being terminally online isn't healthy. Don Sullivan says, I'm not sure how Sam is wrong. Q-Plat says, yeah, this is pathetic. The whole point is that you took a habitual liar and a scam artist at his word. Kind of something I've been saying. Wayne the Ally one says, Anna's political turn is one of the most depressing things I've seen at this point. At best, she is a centrist. That's totally fine. I just don't want to hear her gaslight us about how progressive she is, and this attack on Sam and the MR is just ... She has fallen pretty low. Mike Fisher 5467 says, you 100% mocked voters and anyone that was worried about Project 2025. Did she blankety 1988? Did Anna mention that she corrected herself behind a paywall? Blankety 1988 also says Sam was 100% correct on Anna. Madden Terror says your price is injured. Your pride is injured. I get it, but it's time to move on. This is a bad look. Making statements 812. OMG, you believe him? Social Security is the largest budget item. It would be the easiest thing to cut. They're going to do it. Doge is already in there looking to cut shit. How is she this naive? Walter Lemon 9127 says everyone in the comments is laughing at you. No, that Ryan says some of TMR's best content over the years has been and continues to be Sam confidently and decisively debunking conservative libertarian talking points. Anna is being wildly dishonest here. Also, stop lying about how YouTube ads work. Okay. You guys noticed that Anna didn't make a 16-minute video clapping back at Laura Loomer? This is It's a Bet 422. She barely responded, LOL. This should tell us you something. Chosen one of the non-existent God at 9:55 time code. You can't predict that Trump is a fascist? Well, why are you a journalist again? Another soldiers. Anna is so embarrassing and such a letdown. She really thought that she did something. I want to find one that is like in support. I mean, honestly, that feels trying to don't just want to be piling it on here. Someone wrote here, how dare your peers point out the fact that you clearly knew better and personally argued as much before you got paid off by Polymarket? I hope she got some Polymarket money. I assume it went into the general coffers there, but maybe Cenk owes her a bonus. Give her a bonus, Cenk. Honestly, Anna deserves well, she has her agent. I mean, that's kind of in the film. We can actually look at that a little bit. It's not about her, but it's about negotiating for increasing your working conditions, and she has somebody that does the negotiating for her. Okay, someone wrote, this is the first time ever ever down thumb one of your videos. TYT, shame on you. All caps, stop. This is so odd. Anna's entire defense of herself is essentially that either that Trump said he wouldn't do it or he hasn't done it yet. You guys spent years talking about how big of a pathological liar Trump is. So this is pretty incredible. Denying Project 2025 was simply about convenience. Very succinct, nicely done, nicely said. We'll go to sort by newest first. John Bristol 97. All the far left is saying Anna's moved to the right or wrong. You're just so far left. Anyone not socialist looks right wing. Okay, we found a defender. Good. Another person. Aussie girl 235. Anna has lost her mind. Josenetto 9412. This woman is a joke. If she has two neurons, then it is a stretch. All right. Telesto 912. I used to really disagree with Anna on almost everything, but I think a lot of us from both sides of the aisle are moving closer to the center, and we're realizing that both the far right and the far left have completely lost their minds. Keep up the good fight, Anna. You're swaying people's opinions every day. All right, we'll leave it on that one. Someone wrote, I'm not reading all that, you worthless normie. Okay. All right, so